Hello, everybody. My name is Tyler Young, and I will be presenting on UPS, where I have been there a little over a year and a half. Upon graduating from Nichols in May of 2016, I received a job as an intern in the corporate financial reporting department, where after 2 months of that, I was promoted to be an international accountant. I did that job for 10 months until recently being promoted to a job as a supervisor in the procurement department where I work on contracts with outside vendors. Next slide, please. Okay, so on today's agenda, I'm going to go over some of the topics that I wrote about in my paper for UPS. First of them being operations management and cost control, a process for my second job as an international accountant, which is the virtual trader process. I will also go over some theories of constraints that UPS has as a whole, strategic planning measures that they take when planning projects, the technology that UPS has, and how valuable human capital is. So, operations management and cost control. The main focus of UPS currently is global expansion. Our international logistics and supply chain network has grown exponentially over the past couple of years. In addition to that, we have been focusing mainly on gaining recognition in global markets. From an operations standpoint, we are beginning to build more hubs, but so far this year have opened new ones in England, Poland, Hungary, and Germany. By opening up these new hubs allows us to ship goods to more customers faster than we've ever had before. In addition to that, we've purchased recently 14 brand new Boeing 747 airplanes. This will allow us to ship more packages faster as we are in a global expanding market and we're just trying to be the one to always be ahead of the pack. In addition to that, we have made acquisitions like Coyote, who help us in our logistics and supply chain network. However, along with all these great things that UPS is doing, there are lots of threats to the market. One of the main threats to the market that many of you are probably aware of is Amazon. Amazon is currently expanding at a rapid rate, and they are looking to open their own delivery service. This would allow them to rely less heavily on UPS, and them being one of our biggest customers, definitely it would be an issue to our it's a huge threat to the market. However, I see in the near foreseeable future, it's hard to see them being able to do that. Next slide, please. Next, I'm going to talk to you about the virtual trader process. Virtual Trader is the software company software source that I worked with while I was an international accountant for 10 months. Essentially, it is a platform for processing intercompany payments and being able to push them to the general ledger. Along with that, there are networks and sub-network relationships. For example, Company 9, which is also known as America Parent, is the main network company. It's the company I've worked with mostly, and that is where all the payments go through. However, there are several other companies, for example, W companies. W companies are a sub-network of Network 9, and then, therefore, was able to process payments through them. There was numbers 1 through 20 for W networks, and they were all China entities. This is just a small example of all that I was able to process within Company 9 network. With working with Virtual Trader, I processed all my payments through Company 9 by working with various UPSers around the world in the Europe, Asia, and South American regions to process monthly intercompany transactions and cash payments. With Virtual Trader, there's a sub-ledger based off of it that is used to reconcile all the payments that go through it. Next slide, please. Theories of constraint. With any company, there's always going to be a theory of constraint. I think the biggest one that sticks out the most with UPS is technology. This also goes hand in hand with automation, but we'll touch on that later. UPS is a company that's been around for over 100 years. However, I feel like as being an employee there that the main focus there is global expansion, but they have not focused that much on technology. I feel with other internships that I have done prior to working at UPS that I had much more access to greater technology at smaller companies. And this is a big problem. Considering we are one of the largest corporations in the world, you would think we would focus more on having technology for employees. However, I will highlight one issue that I dealt with when I was an international accountant. Once every few months, I had to do a quarterly China interest journal write-off. When doing that, it would take me about an hour to put the 300-line journal entry together. However, as it was a web-based ADI template, oftentimes it would give me many issues when trying to upload it. For example, if I was to upload the template into our general ledger, it would say one row is wrong. I would go to that row and then fix it. After that, after fixing the one row, it would say the entire workbook is wrong. So essentially, I would just keep plugging in different ways, trying to get the website to take the workbook rather than actually doing it. Where my time could be spent elsewhere working on better solutions and doing more accounting work. So that's just one of the theories of constraint that I noticed at UPS. Also, automation. A lot of our work done at UPS is manpower, as far as moving packages, processing packages, delivering packages, moving them throughout the hubs. However, this is one thing that they have addressed pretty well. Most of the hubs being built nowadays are becoming more automated, as in we don't have to hire as many employees because we're putting these systems in place that can process packages, whereas scanning them, routing them, putting them into the right spots. There's always going to be a need for manpower at UPS, but the automation is a big thing that they're beginning to address. Also, one of the biggest as of recent is weather. With Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Harvey, they definitely hit UPS very hard. Whereas not so much being able to deliver packages at these locations, but as in they were processing plants for moving packages to other locations. Whereas Texas, most packages that come through Mexico or from Mexico go through Texas before going to the greater US. And then, as in Florida, packages would come through there. Every package that would come through South America would come through Florida first. So in addition to sending volunteers from the corporate office, UPS sent about 500 employees from offices all around the country to help out in Texas as well as Texas as well as Florida, to help out with processing the packages as well as the volunteer work. Next slide, please. Strategic planning. The RFP process is a process that I am quite familiar with, being a new supervisor in the procurement department. Essentially, a UPS stakeholder contacts procurement requesting a request for proposal. That's what an RFP is. Procurement and the stakeholder meet to discuss the specifics of the project, scope of work, timeline, etc. Procurement then sets up RFA in Ariba, which is UPS's procurement software to store contracts and conduct RFPs. Procurement releases the RFP to vendors with a 2-week timeline. This gives the vendor an ample amount of time to complete the necessary documents. Vendor creates a proposal after this, a PowerPoint or Word doc, and pricing sheet, and contacts procurement with any questions. At the conclusion of the 2-week timeline, procurement gives the UPS stakeholder all vendor proposals and pricing sheets so they can make a selection on a vendor. After that, the UPS stakeholder makes a decision and begins the ACC approval process. Upon approval of the ACC process, procurement awards the RFP to the selected vendor. ACC stands for Appropriation, Creation, and Control. This is the platform which stores all of UPS's appropriated and unappropriated projects. Essentially, any project that UPS is doing, where it's building a hub, creating consulting work, something as simple as ordering a large printer, it needs to go through the appropriation process, as it needs to. It's a set of guidelines to keep track of all of UPS's project spending. Lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about technology. One of the biggest things that our IT department is bringing to UPS headquarters where I work is SmartPrint. Oftentimes, I'll go to print something, and I'll walk to the printer, and either my stuff's not there, or there's just a ton of stuff that's in the way. People print stuff and then forget about it and don't go and get it, or they take my stuff by mistake. Whereas SmartPrint, it's connected to your badge, so when I print something, it gets sent to my badge, technically. Then I can go to any printer in the building, tap my badge, and whatever I put on printed before will come out. Essentially, this reduces the bottleneck of having too many people at the printer at one time, or someone taking someone else's documents. So overall, it's very, very efficient. Lastly, I'm going to talk about token security. I was unaware of this, as I had never worked with something like this, but each UPSer is encrypted with, or is given an encrypted token that allows them to work from home or work from an outside Wi-Fi network other than UPS's main network. So what this does is allows a secure connection between UPS employees and the network, whereas if someone were to figure out my password, they could just log on to my computer. However, they could not connect to the network or take any of my documents without that encrypted token that I keep on my person at all times. Overall, with all of the processes I have described in this presentation, I hope you realize that UPS is a great company to work for, although there are some issues, and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Have a nice day.